Welcome to Built for This, the podcast where purpose meets performance. Hosted by business strategist and human behavior specialist Carly Pepin, this show dives into the real stories behind high-growth businesses. Let's bring life to your vision. All right, guys, it is great to have you today. I'm really looking forward to our interview today. So I have Wes Towers with me from Uplift 360. And when we think about our business, we have a lot of business owners who reach a point where what used to work starts falling apart. And sometimes the threat isn't external, it's also structural. So Wes Towers had hit that moment a few years ago in his business where he got a low valuation. So we're going to dive into that. And as AI was on the rise, he had to decide whether to fade or to rebuild. And what happened next was he restructured his team, his tech, his positioning, and it led to his best financial year ever. So today we're going to unpack the real strategic moves that he made to actually create that shift. So this is going to be an inspire one. So Wes, he's the founder of Uplift 360. This is a digital agency for construction and trade businesses. And after being told his company was not worth much because AI was coming, he rebuilt it by leaning into AI while focusing on trust and human connection. And that shift led to his most profitable year yet. So Wes shares these candid lessons on scaling resilience and building businesses that last. Thank you so much for coming, Wes. I'm really looking forward to our conversation today.
Thanks so much, Carly. It's good to be here. Thanks for making time for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll just dive right in. And I'm curious, what was the moment that really made you realize that helping people with websites and SEO wasn't just a skill set, but it had to be a business?
Yeah, well, that's right. So as you mentioned, 3 years ago, roughly speaking, I got a business valuation and it came back a real kick in the teeth, really. I thought it would come back a lot higher than it did. And the reason being was the valuation guy just said, look, AI is a massive threat to your business. It was just kind of emerging, as you can imagine, 3 years ago. But he was obviously on top of it and the potential that what it might mean to my whole industry. So we mostly do websites and SEO for trades and construction businesses. And I think he noticed really early on, and people are talking about that now, that AI might replace entire industries and businesses and so on. So it was a real blessing in disguise. Whilst I didn't like it much at the time, it meant that I really had to focus in on what I valued the most, firstly, and how I could use some of the tools without losing what's important to me in my values. So it was like a two-pronged approach, and it really worked out really well, as you mentioned.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And I think it's a great reminder for many business owners who have gotten very disappointing valuations. It doesn't mean you have to give up, but it's like, okay, what can you do to turn it around to actually
Yeah.
increase these valuations? Because, one of the individuals that I partner with, she does this professionally. She does exit strategy. And when she comes in, and
Right.
sometimes these business owners get these valuations, and I'm like, this is what we've been trying to tell you. We either get it together or you don't have to
Yeah.
do this, but you're not going to sell it for what you want. So it can be a
Yeah.
really harsh awakening, but also,
Yeah.
as you were saying, like an inspiring one.
Yeah, so that's really so true. And I think never before in history has been such turbulent times for anyone really in any form of business. If you're not staying up to date with the trends and where things are moving, and certainly for our industry, that was the case. Um, it's so a few of the key, I guess, levers or things that I did. Well, obviously AI, I introduced some of the tools and tech, and that's emerging and changing and so on so fast. But I really sat with myself and thought through my personal values more than anything else, really. And see, I'm a really relational kind of person, and business is always human connection. That's just how I am, and I'm not a sales guy. I'm just a person who likes to connect with other people, um, and by that, it's always being successful. So I just thought, look, what can I do to enhance that human connection? So I started my own networking group, even just a pretty social networking group. I've been to a lot of structured ones for professional referrals and so on, but this one was just social, and it was at the wine bar nearby here, and because that was a value to create human connections, to make sure these things aren't lost. So I doubled down on my values, the human aspect of business, but I also introduced AI to streamline processes and get to the end result, and even to syndicate my message out a little broader and faster were some of the key things to do. Um, yeah, so business valuation. I'd like to get a new one. Actually, there's someone reached out just the other week, curious about the business. Now, I'm not keen to sell right now, but I'm happy to go through the process with this particular. They're actually a company in Brisbane. We're in Melbourne, so they're in Brisbane, I believe. So I'm happy to go through the process and see what the valuation comes out this time. But I think it would be a lot better.
Yeah, no, that would be a really cool reflection. And I also love how you dove into, you talk about changing the external dynamics of a company, but you also really focused on the internal as well. So it wasn't just how do I restructure this company, but how do I do it in such a way that I'm inspired, I'm fulfilled, I'm not getting burnt
Yeah,
out. Because when we're doing things that we're not aligned with, we just burn out so quickly. And knowing what the next steps you were going to have to go through to really start to revolutionize in this time, right? And
yeah.
like get ahead of the game. Like it's really important to focus not just on the external, but also, am I connected with this? Am I doing something in a way that I like it enough to be able to hunker down some days and get it done without the burnout?
Yeah, 100%. And I think there's going to be greater value on that as well as we move into like AI perfects things from a technical standpoint, I suppose, but it can't do everything. And so I think there's going to be a real value on what we humans can do. It's kind of like art when it's a famous or reputable artist, and we want to know that it was their brush and their hand that touched the canvas and made the artwork. We might travel far and wide to see it, if we're into art. We might travel far and wide to see a particular artwork in the flesh, the actual real thing. There's always been that human drive and desire for connection to the artist in that instance. So we want to know their backstory and what were they experiencing at the time in their life, in their world, what influenced their style and everything like that. And I think that those sorts of things will become really, really important in the near future as things evolve. People are crunching out generic content really fast with AI and so on. So the authentic voice, your own message, the way in which you present. I've really doubled down in all of this because I really think that's where true value is. And you're right in saying if it's super aligned to who we are as business leaders,
Mm.
because our businesses are typically a reflection of who we are personally. So our personal brand as a founder will be what's modeled into the business itself as small business leaders. Maybe big business is slightly different to that because there's so many people at play. But for smaller businesses who are founder led, I think it's a real opportunity to be the artist, I suppose, in the business world and to present yourself authentically and not you might not even be particularly polished, I think. I mean, I'm doing this and I'm not a public speaker by any means, but it's me and it's my voice and I'm an R, all those sorts of things, but I share from my heart. And I think that's where the value is as humans.
Yeah, that's really interesting because it's like as you were sharing that, it was reminding me of like a couple things when you're like, people go visit the art. When I went to Paris not long ago, and I got to go to the Musée d'Orsay and they had the Impressionist like special exhibit there, and it was really quite stunning. And the second I walked in, there's some paintings on the wall that I've only seen in books. Like that was it. And I looked
Yeah.
and it's just like that brings you to tears and you're just like, oh my gosh, like I get it now. Like I saw it in a
Yeah.
book and it looked cool, but you see it in person and there's nothing like that authentic original, right? And even it's that dynamic when we're using AI. Like I love that. It's like, how do we make sure that that authenticity is still shining through? Like, how do we make sure we're not
Yeah.
losing that? Because people, we resonate with that. We really really love those dynamics. And
Yeah.
so I'm curious too, because this is a big shift like within your company. And I know that your employees have been, we talked about this, like really happy with the transition and they've stayed alongside. How did you help them? This is great for individuals who are making these transitions. It's like, how did you help them, train them to keep them engaged and inspired and excited by the transition instead of getting that like overwhelm and burden?
Yeah. So, so the team are mostly technical people, so they're really excited by AI and they're adapting to that really fast, and even leading me to a large degree in that because it is shifting so fast. So they're super excited by that. I think there's a lot of companies that will be either laying off people or reassigning people. I'm really fortunate that I haven't had to, and it's really been engaging for them. But it's freed up a lot of time for me to do the human stuff that I really enjoy. I think that we've spoken about authenticity, but authenticity really to me is the foundation of trust, and all good business is built on trust. So it's really the currency. Trust is the currency for business, I believe. So I mean, you can fight so hard to get a new client through marketing, and but if you win a client's heart because you've provided a great outcome for whatever they're trying to achieve, well, they're going to be clients for life, and they'll refer people just like them. And so it becomes so much easier as you do these things. And even like I don't accept every job that knocks on the door. I only provide the services to people I genuinely think that we can provide awesome value for. So I mean, the team are really happy because I mean they're not pushed as hard to get the workload done, and in fact they've got a little bit of free time, and we're kind of looking at ways in which we can use that free time for internal projects and things that might excite us to work on, potential software and so on that's sort of in its infancy right now. But there's plenty of ideas glowing, that's for sure.
That's cool. It sounds like you got a really good combination, not of just the education and implementation, but they're getting to be really active in their own creativity and engaged in kind of the next steps and vision of the company. So it's fun for them.
Yeah, yeah, that's 100% right. And I've also brought my son on board. He's been doing a bit of social media marketing for more so for influencers and so on here in Melbourne. And so I saw his work and thought, well, you can help me get do our social media. So that's been fantastic as well to have that. He's a super creative guy, so to bring him on board has been really great too. And because he's obviously a lot younger than me, being my son, so he's bringing in a fresh set of eyes as well, particularly on the social stuff. I mean, I wasn't on TikTok at all. And that we've just launched that fairly recently, and it seems like the reach is phenomenal. So, and he's doing all that, so it's been really good.
Okay, that's really cool. I'm actually gonna go dive into those. Okay, so before I forget, I forgot to mention one thing before, and now I'm taking extra notes because even though we have some questions, I was like, this is great. All right, so
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I'm having fun. So, something I forgot to mention before. So, yeah, when you were mentioning the authenticity within the company and as small business owners, we really get to lead that, right? And a smaller, even mid-sized business owner. So, just if you're a larger sized business owner, some of the things that I do with some of my clients, because you're right, it's harder to get to the individuals that are lower on the chain there, you know? So, what we do, which is really fun, is like kind of finding like touch points to connect with clients. One of them likes to send out weekly emails and they do celebrations and acknowledgments and also share some personal stories and information so everyone kind of gets like a hang of like who they are. And then simultaneously they do kind of big events. Like one of them actually does like a big lunch and stuff where everyone gets together
Wow.
and they all actually sit down at lunch together in this big like warehouse sort of style room and they buy everyone lunch and we all kind of get together and chat, which is really fun too. So yeah, in bigger companies, it's definitely getting more creative to be able to
Yeah,
have that authenticity flow down to the bottom. So
yeah.
yeah,
It
it's
is
fun
an
though.
interesting one. So, I mean, something we help the clients with a lot of content writing in their voice. So we spend a lot of time to get the style guides and voice, so we can use it as prompts to make sure it's right aligned with how they would communicate things, and also um, it's not just their voice, but their unique message. So if there's something distinctly theirs, that's what we like to focus on. But I suppose with a larger company, and we're not implementing this for people, but to have those style guides and voice documents for corporate
Yeah.
communications, it can keep things so much more aligned because everyone's got their own way of communicating, which isn't necessarily on brand. Um,
Yeah.
it's kind of a balance, isn't it? To keep people authentically them, but also authentically part of the bigger entity as the team rolls out. So that's probably more your space to play in. How do you find that?
Definitely when we're engaging kind of in the bigger space, it's usually not just like I have the vision of the individual, which might actually be not completely the same as the vision of the company, right? Sometimes it's similar. Like you see Elon Musk, and he is this visionary where the company is tied to uniquely like what he wants to achieve in life. But sometimes I have individuals who genuinely like what they want to achieve is they want to achieve financial independence and this level of wealth like for their family, right? And that's like their top priority. And that's not really going to translate into a business mission. So not at all. So
Yeah,
then it's like we uncover what the core mission of the actual business is, and then tying that in to the different dynamics with the employees so that they can understand that it's not just about that dynamic of helping this person get financially independent, but also this is what we're doing. This is who we're serving. This is who we're
mm,
connecting. That this is why we do it. And one of the individuals, it's very cool. Every testimonial they get, they pop it on a hallway, and there's like a little kind of Polaroid printout, and on that they have underneath it a testimonial. And so like almost the whole office right now is covered in these. Like it's crazy how many they have. So if you're working there and you walk in that office or down that hallway, you cannot not connect with the mission of the
yeah,
company. Like you have no choice. And you're like, oh, I helped with that. I helped with that. I remember her. Right. And it just really
yeah,
helps you to understand what that is, which is really cool because the owner's vision is definitely different than like the company's vision overall.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting one, isn't it? It's, I suppose a common kind of thing where the owner sometimes it's a financial thing, so it's their skill set, it's their career path, but they've launched a business because they can make a lot of money doing it as
Mhm.
their own entity. It's kind of a little bit the best way to produce income is to produce value for somebody. So if they can sort of realign it to the value in which they're producing for the end client, that's something that team can come on board because no one's necessarily that much invested in just their boss getting rich,
No,
so to speak.
nobody cares
Yeah. So
unless they're your
that
kid.
yeah, what's that?
Unless they're your kid, your son cares.
Yeah, yeah. Stop spending the inheritance. Save it.
Yeah, now come
Yeah.
earn some of the money. Hey everyone, it's Carly. If you're really resonating with what we're talking about and want to get clear on what truly drives you, what your core values are, head on over to my website. In the tools and tips section, there is a free values assessment. And this is a quick exercise that's going to help you to uncover what actually matters most with you so you can lead and live with more clarity, fulfillment, and momentum.
Yeah. So I suppose to realign income with value, and what's the value that the end client, like all marketing, it should be about what's in it for the customer. So yeah,
Yes.
that's a good way of looking at it. It's but yeah, so I was talking, and sometimes, so we obviously are doing marketing to grow businesses most of the time. But sometimes, like I was just talking to a guy 2 days ago at a networking function. They can't afford to grow the level of business because they can't get staff in their field. So they've got to shift. Yeah. So I said, well, why don't you shift your marketing efforts so the brand is about attracting the very best people or people at all because they just can't get any. I think they've got
Yeah.
5 job openings, and most of them have been open for a very long time, and no one's even applying, which is a really big dilemma. So they've got to market themselves not just to grow the business, but to grow it as a place that people want to work for, so they can attract the very best team members. Uh,
Yeah. It's
Interesting
actually
topic.
totally true. So funny enough, you're saying this because you're in construction and trade. And so one of my construction clients, they had a similar issue where they were having a hard time finding talent. And so they started doing that, where they started advertising for the talent. And then, same thing that you would do when you're looking for clients is like you go, you advertise for clients, you come back, you see which ones fit, which ones didn't, and you refine your advertising. And in doing that, like it was so beneficial to him that he discovered that like his clients were definitely around like military was really helpful in that industry. And I've noticed that in the construction industry because they're very regimented, they're very structured, they follow the hierarchical order. They also like have like some entrepreneurship tendencies to them. And so all of a sudden, by doing that marketing dynamic, he got to understand and uncover just like he would a customer, just understanding his niche. He understood his niche in regards to hiring, which like really changed the game for things. So yeah, it's like you don't even have to just focus on the marketing dynamic for clients. Like you could also be doing it for your own employees. It's
Yeah.
quite an opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
100%. It's just creating congruency throughout every aspect of your business and your brand. So it's somewhere people want to be work for, and some people want to have hired to do a task. So uh,
Yeah.
it's interesting times in the world, really, for a lot of that. I mean, here in Australia, we had a real big boom time for our clientele. So everyone was smashing it. You just, they could turn work away. There's just too much work. But things have changed a lot now. So people let their websites slip and so on, and they were looking a bit old, and things have had to dial up. They have to fight a little harder to get the work flowing through now. So
Yeah.
that's good for me.
It is. It's also a great
So,
reminder for all business owners. It's like when we're green, we're growing, but when we ripe, we rot. And we
yeah.
forget that. And if we like get to that point where all of a sudden everything's easy, we're not doing anything, you've dropped these other areas of business, you're relying and trusting that like your market's not going to change. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
for me, it's like, well, let's keep on top of this stuff on a regular basis. You may not have to push as hard during that time, but you make sure that that's still functioning, that's all still running, you're keeping up to date. Because when the market does change, most of the people who haven't done that, you're ahead of the game. You're already
Yeah.
ahead of the game because you've been maintaining and growing something that a lot of people like let falter and fail. And that happens a lot, a lot. And then that's why you see these businesses, which sometimes is happening. One of my clients' competitors, they're multi-million-dollar company, they're up in the deck of millions, and they're falling and faltering because they were thought they were ripe and they're now rotting, and he doesn't know if they can get out
Yeah.
of it. He's watching it and he's like, it's good for me. He's like, we're getting a lot of business. He's like, but I don't know if they can get out of it. So paying attention to that during the good times, still focused on the
Yeah.
important stuff.
Yeah. You do hear stories of companies that started in really tough times, and they seem to be the ones that build the strongest foundations because they have to.
Yeah.
There's no easy wins for them. So I mean, you can't manufacture the time in which you start, but just to keep that in mind, the things do change. There's kind of a cyclical nature of business and the economy.
Definitely. And I'd like to dive into the core customer a little bit because, like when we're thinking about who we serve, if we're serving too many people, it can be confusing. If we're serving too little, it can be confusing. Obviously, there's certain business models that fit that, right? Definitely certain business. Amazon's a great example. They serve a crap ton of people in all these different areas, but
Yeah.
they still are a shipping business. And yeah, it's still a very specific type of business and they're still serving specific types of people. So knowing our core
Yeah.
customer is like so valuable. With you,
Yeah.
what got you into construction? What did you
Yeah.
see in that dynamic with construction and trade businesses that other people missed?
Yeah, so we really zeroed in on the niche over the. Do you say niche or niche? It's both.
I actually am not sure.
Yeah.
Sometimes someone said it might be like niche or something, and I was like, honestly, I don't know, but I say niche. So if I'm
Yeah.
saying
No,
it wrong,
that's
sorry, not sorry. Someone will correct me one day.
yeah, I'd say niche as well. But
Right.
I, yeah, it evolved really. So I was doing websites for anyone and everyone. Certainly when I started out, I was doing even brochure designs and everything as a small freelancer until I grew it into a business with a team and so on. But even then, I was doing in the early. I've been doing it a long time, but early days would do any website that came along. Now we're really selective, and the niche that we best serve is the trades and construction. And that was a little bit by accident in that, I mean, I don't have a construction background or anything like that. And that's how sometimes people choose their niche. For me, it was just most of our very best clients were in those sorts of industries. So I thought, well, these are the people that, for whatever reason, I relate to the best, and create that strong connection. And we're producing great value, and we're learning all the time about their particular needs. Um, and so we're getting great results. They're happy. Happy clients mean I'm happy. It just made perfect sense. Even then, it was still difficult to sort of realign marketing and so on, and to do that because you feel like you're cutting off opportunities.
Yeah.
It didn't kind of really work out that way. So we've got legacy clients from other industries, and from time to time we'll take on other things, but we're really focused on what we do best. So we're always upfront. They can read on the website what we do best, but sometimes we'll take on other things only when it really we think we can do a fantastic job. So um, yeah, it's been fantastic. It's just because once you're niched into a certain thing, you kind of pick up what works in one business might translate really well to the next because they're kind of similar. Not that you're copying one strategy exactly to the next, but you kind of pick up what works and what doesn't. So you get some really quick wins on the board for the clients. So they're happy, and um, yeah, you learn, you continue to learn because it's a fast moving industry we're in. Things change so fast, so it keeps us on top of everything.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. It's a fun industry too. I like the construction and trades class. They're really fun.
Yeah,
Definitely like a different flavor, but I like their energy. And usually it's interesting because usually when I connect with them, they tend to have a strong purpose driven kind of background in a sense. And I don't know why that industry attracts them, but I'm like, this is cool. Like I really like this
yeah.
dynamic. So I could see that.
And yeah, really pragmatic and practical. So
Yeah.
oftentimes they're started by someone on the tools. So they're founded by that pragmatic approach, which is great. So that's kind of the heart and the thinking behind the business. But oftentimes I'll be working with a marketing manager uh, in that entity as well. So in those instances, we're kind of just partnering with the marketing person so they can present to their boss effectively. And so it's great. We're a great resource for them, and they hopefully we make them look great to their bosses because we kind of know what's going on, and it works really well. So no matter if we're built, if it's a small business, working with the founder typically, if it's a slightly bigger business, working with a marketing manager, but it's kind of the same outcome we're trying to achieve.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And let me ask you too, because just curious about your son, right? So a
Yeah.
lot of individuals, and I do work with a lot of family like run businesses or people who want to pass it on to their family. And there's a lot of different dynamics that come within family. I would love for you to share like some things that have really worked to help your son integrate into the business, maybe some things that didn't work for those people thinking about bringing their kids in, because I know it can sometimes be challenging.
Yeah, well, it was sort of a initially there was like there's pros and cons with it. When he's coming out of high school and then getting his career path and figuring all that stuff out. I kind of wanted him to sort of fledge his own way a little bit to start with, which he did do, and so he was winning some work with some influencers here in Melbourne to do their social media, which is great because it's like a good little network that he's developed. Um, but I could see he was growing in his creative skill set and knew how the social media worked in the different platforms and so on. But I thought it was a great opportunity. So he's super creative, but to bring him alongside from a business standpoint, so I can almost mentor him. Not that he has to work in the business forever, but I mean, I had to learn a lot of things the hard way. You just observe from your bosses, and that's like I had no business education or anything like that. I was a designer designing websites, so I made a lot of mistakes, and I didn't know how to charge, I didn't know how to put a proposal together or anything, didn't know how to present all these things. I think I can help him on his journey, and he might go and flourish somewhere else eventually. But I think I'm really happy to be a support to my son because once kids get to he's 19 now. They kind of go, and you don't see him anymore. So I'm pleased I'm seeing him still,
That's true.
and all that kind of stuff as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, using it
I,
to my advantage.
I think you hit on a really great point too, is that, it becomes a really big mentorship role where it's not just bringing someone in. Like maybe if they had the background, maybe then there wouldn't need as much mentorship. But it really becomes like this dynamic where you are mentoring them. You're mentoring them on the business. You become the teacher. You become the educator. You're mentoring them on how to grow. But then simultaneously, it's like also listening to them and understanding like the contribution that they make, like what they have that you don't, right? And it's
Yeah,
kind of having them share that in such a way that they can incorporate with the company. So it's like leadership slash mentorship on a more high touch level, it sounds like.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's really good. And so because I've never everyone I've ever hired has been really advanced in their skill set already. So I've never had to sort of get them like sort of in the junior phase.
Yeah.
But I think that you would see this more often that mentoring juniors must be a really important thing, because they could so easily just get lost, particularly in a bigger company or, you know, oftentimes probably not really super sure of themselves as well. So just giving the confidence and guidance, I think you would see that more than me.
For sure, and it's really cool because it's like if it's not coming from the founder, let's say, where I've had it's funny, even I mean, I got really lucky, but I had the opportunity when I used to work for corporate companies to somehow manage to get mentored by like the CEOs and executives and stuff. But I just learned, I was like, help the right people, do what you can, make them happy, and they're like, they just want you around more. And then all of a sudden you're hearing things and you're experiencing things, and it was really great. It was very accidental, so I think I got a rare experience, but I think it's cool because it's like for bigger companies, usually what they'll do is the leadership team is doing that. And there's one company that was actually pretty cool. They're starting an entire school within their company, with one of the individuals, one of the executives who loves teaching and loves learning. And within that school, they're going to have everyone engaged and teaching them not just skills for, the company, but also skills for life, personal development and growth and how to just build the leadership within them as well. And it does take a lot more than people think, but if it's just built into the culture, it becomes something quite natural, very natural.
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah, that's awesome. Just creating a sense of team as well, isn't it? So everyone's on the same page.
yeah.
It's a good investment, I suppose. And another question for you, also, um, because everyone says team members don't stick around as long as they once did. So, and
Hmm.
like talking to buddies, who run businesses as well, I typically hang around with mostly business people. Um, the concern is that they're going to they'll train up a staff member and a team member, and then they'll be gone.
Yeah,
That's
it's
a
highly possible. It's funny. I was just reading the story, and pardon me, I'm not familiar with her name, and if I try, I'm gonna butcher her name. But she's the one who was part of the team on OpenAI, and then she left. I believe she left OpenAI, and then she like started her own thing. But Facebook tried to poach her engineers, and you're kind of hearing the story. And they came in with quite lucrative offers, where like over a certain period of time, they would get like a stake in the investment, a stake in the stocks. And they were saying it was up to like one of the guys, actually, engineers said it was like $1 billion at the end of the day. She's most likely offering like some sort of stake in her company as well, and I'm pretty sure she disconnected from OpenAI. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna butcher all of that details. Like, but if you look it up, you'll find it. But the reality is there's also the dynamic that they love working for her. And so they created
yeah,
like it's creating the environment where, yeah, you're gonna get well paid if that's, what you're competing with. But simultaneously, like if you create that environment where someone doesn't want to leave it, it's really hard to poach people. And I see this in the law industry as well, where they poach
yeah,
people left and right. Like I couldn't believe how much it was like these recruiters would keep coming and trying to poach different individuals. And
mm,
actually, it's all with my brother-in-law. He loves where he's at right now. People are still trying to poach him, but he loves where he's at. And so even if they come in and offer different like financial rewards and stuff, the company he's
Mm,
at is also very family driven. He's brought his daughters to work before. He's been able to, work part-time from home, which is really helpful for like him and the family. And
mm,
they're so accommodating with families and it's great. So he makes great money accommodating with families. Someone else comes in and is like, you can't offer me as much as this is because this culture
yeah,
fits me to such a great degree. So yeah, the
yeah,
combination of sometimes it's going to be a financial contribution. And if that's the most important thing for a person and that's not what you can offer, they're not your person.
yeah,
But if it's other dynamics as well, then you could really, you're basically like can feed someone's soul with the culture of your company.
yeah,
And if you hire into that and make sure they're aligned and a match with the culture, then they're more likely to stay. Hey everyone, it's Carly. So, if this conversation is really hitting home and you want to get a real snapshot of what's working and what's not in your business, head on over to my website in the tools and tips section and you can have the business performance health check. In just about 15 minutes, you're going to see where the friction is and where your next growth opportunity lies within your company. Which actually goes on to my next question for you because it actually
okay,
ties in with that because
yeah,
we
cool.
talked about this. It's just so funny. And I was like, this is my next question. But basically, it was kind of about the culture of your company in a sense, because I remember you told me there was one time you hired a friend and it didn't work out. So now when you hire, you have a completely different hiring process and you're more like it's a bit more strict, but it's much better than it used to be. So tell us about that. Yeah.
So I think I said before that most of the lessons have been learned the hard way in business. So certainly hiring that first person, yeah, and I've made lots of mistakes in that whole process. So firstly, I probably didn't go with that gut instinct, and I think as I've matured, I'm more inclined to trust my instinct a little bit better. I kind of rationalized the hire because she seemed to have the great skill set. I knew her, so I thought um, she would have my best interest at heart and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't know what I was doing, hiring first person. So, oh, well, I know her. She's not going to do anything wrong by me and all that kind of stuff. But it turned out not to be the case. Um, I think I absolutely have a process when looking at hiring someone new now. Obviously, they got to match the skill set and all that kind of stuff. But really, the gut instinct of the person, are they are they going to fit with everybody else? Are they kind of a you can kind of pick up just the personality of people and sometimes I don't know. Sometimes they're even too polished, and you think something not quite right. Like, is there something not genuine, or maybe I get it wrong? But I just go with instinct now, and just authentic people, because they all work. We all work so close together. We can't have anyone that disrupts what's going on. So
Yeah. I think this is it because it's like it's such an important lesson where sometimes we're thinking the best person is whatever it says on paper, but that's not true. Because if there's two people and they're competing and one of them's the best on paper and one of them's just they're really good, but they're just not as good as that one, except this one
yeah,
fits with the culture. It's like that's
yeah,
actually the better hire because they can be trained up to be that good
yeah,
on paper and they're gonna just fit in with the company and be able to work with the team and get to that point where the other person wreaks havoc. They wreak
yeah,
havoc in like the social dynamic, and especially in a company where it's like you have the larger revenue, but you have a smaller team. Like it's so
yeah,
important for that team dynamic to stay strong.
yeah. I think absolutely. And so I mean, we've got really solid workflows and processes that everyone follows. So, I mean, I haven't seen it too much, but there's been instances where someone's come in really, really advanced in their skill set and they've got lots of great experience.
Mm.
So they're more inclined to follow their past company's process, which isn't ours, and there's reasons behind why we do things a certain way to produce the consistent outcome. So sometimes it's better to get someone a little less skilled. They've got to have a standard that you can build upon, but they'll probably be more inclined to follow process a little better. It's I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true. And I'm curious too, because when you think, when you're doing the digital dynamics, digital marketing, and you're helping people with their presence online, like what's one of the main improvements that you've seen with these business owners that can actually make their digital presence today something that matters, right? Because if we think about digital presence, it can be overwhelming. Let's just like
Yeah.
call it what it is. Like I
Yeah.
get things all the time and I'm like, just like, I'm online and I'm researching. I'm like, that was crap. That wasn't real. And I was like, oh, that was kind of cool. I think I'll follow this person. Like, this is true. Like,
Yeah.
so how do you help them get through this sea of noise and get into digital marketing that really matters?
Well, that's what it is, isn't it? It's just such a noisy space, and like it's just got worse in recent times because you can produce content really, really fast. But it's generic content. So what we're supporting clients a lot with, we're calling it search everywhere optimization as opposed to search engine optimization. Because people aren't just jumping on Google to research companies to hire somebody. It's they're jumping on their AI preferred platform and they're having conversations. So they're searching in whole new ways. So they're not just searching for, say, plumber Melbourne. They're searching for a particular need. They've got a particular brand of toilet that's broken. And firstly, they might be looking for DIY solutions to fix something. Or once they realize they can't do it, they might be looking to hire somebody. So, and there's multiple ways in which people will find a business. So back in the day, you just, if you needed to a certain company, you'd jump on Google, you'd find the people who are local to you and you'd look at their websites and make a selection. But now with all the social media platforms and so many different diverse ways of researching, so people are getting their answers on Google. They don't need to click to your website anymore. So we can't really track it as well as we once did, which is a bit of a challenge. So there's less traffic to websites. Also, they're not even, so they're researching through ChatGPT or whatever they're using, so they don't have to visit your website as well there. But what we're finding, and certainly for my own business, is people will have multiple touch points, and it's whatever they choose to use, their socials, whatever. They're seeing me because it's effectively me using it through my personal brand as well as the business brand. Um, so they're seeing me all over the place, wherever they spend their time, LinkedIn or whatever the case may be. And by the time they make the inquiry, they already feel like they know me a little bit. So, and I think that's true of all the clients. So it's really search everywhere. That's overwhelming and scary. You can't possibly publish everywhere, but you can control your own website, and that fuels AI because they're pulling all their information from online platforms. And so your website is a great opportunity to to train AI what you're about and what you stand for.
Yeah, no, that's a really great point. And I hadn't thought about that, but it is search everywhere optimization. Where so many of us, it's do I Google as much as I did before? I do not, and it's
Yeah.
like you're sitting on there and you're asking ChatGPT because it can search and skim through it faster than I can. And then once we find things, it's like, okay, that's what I'll go check out. And I might check out a couple people, but nothing to the degree that I did before. So yeah, that's a really interesting dynamic. And I think a wise strategy is like, how do we target those individuals since that's where everything's going?
Yeah, 100%. And so you've got to, because there's temptation, because it's great to have lots and lots of content in your website and typically through a blog or news or something of that nature. But there's because you can write something really fast with the tools. There's a temptation to do that, but it comes out generic and bland. And that's really what you want to avoid. That'll cause more harm than good, realistically. So you really got to bed down exactly what sets you apart, what makes you unique. I
Mhm.
talk about that. So you want to touch on various things um, through your blog, which is effectively what we're doing for clients, that make sure it's uniquely yours. I mean, you can have AI assist in the way you structure the content and write it, but you have to be adding some form of value. Otherwise, it's just generic and it's not
Mhm.
going to help anybody.
Yeah, no one can see that. No, that's great advice. And I'm curious, so what is a really like one operational mistake that taught you the most in your business?
Yeah, operational mistakes. So, well, there was, yeah, so I mean, it's a long story. I could try and keep it sort of short, but um, this is one higher. I had a team, the team leader at the time actually. I can see he was getting a little bit bored with the work. He'd been with me a long time at that stage. And there is quite a bit of repetition because we have the process to go through. Now the designs come out unique every time, and the messaging and all that. But the software and the structures and everything, I could to just tell he was getting a bit bored. But this opportunity came up to build this site that was completely different to anything we do. It was a dating website. It was a long time ago, so it was before all the apps and Tinder and all that kind of stuff. It was a website
Yeah.
thing. So I thought, wow, this is an opportunity to keep my team leader engaged, and then he won't leave me. So, and I didn't know the software, and so I gave it to him to scope out and figure out and do the proposal, and I sent it off. We won the job, but he quit anyway. So he quit a couple of weeks in to this massive job, and I had nobody who knew how to do it. So that was a massive operational error. It was an error on many fronts. I mean, it was too late to try and win him to stay on board. I spent a lot of nights, sleepless nights, up figuring out how to do what we needed to do. We delivered, we got it done, launched the website. She actually sold that business. But yeah, just so many lessons learned about, sticking to what you said you're going to do.
Yeah.
We're never going to do dating websites. It's not our thing. Yeah, and I have to maintain strong relationships with my team members so we don't get to that point. We can find other ways to keep them engaged for longer. So yeah,
Yeah. It's
my
definitely wisdom. I think we've all kind of gone off track a little bit, and then we take on those clients and we're like, what was I thinking?
yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, can I actually finish this like in a really inspiring way, or is this something that I like it's best for me to pass on? And sometimes we actually pass it on, and it just shows us it's like when we try to go outside our specialty and we do too much, and we're just taking those opportunities out. It turns out to not be an opportunity in the end.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, when I got to the end of that job and we launched, no, the close friends, I said, "Oh, we finally got that job out of the way," and they said, "Well, you've learned all this stuff now. You should make it your niche, and you should do that." I just couldn't stand it anymore. I never wanted to see a dating website ever again. So,
You're
so
like,
now
come
I'm
on,
going back to what I do.
someone else.
100%.
Well,
So.
that's awesome. And what is like one thing too that you wish you would have known about business when you got started or when you even growing it that you didn't know, that you know now?
So I think just to realize people are people. So initially I was really quite shy because I didn't feel confident in presenting, um, or talking to people who I felt were business, successful business people. And being a young guy starting out, I I should have just centered myself more on the fact that they're just people and they've been through the same journey I am. I was confident in the service offering, but just not the sales and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, yeah, that's something that I would definitely, if I could go back in time, I would encourage myself in those spaces. No, to be prepared to make a mistake. Like it's not a big deal. You're presenting poorly, or you get sweaty, and you just fumble your words and all that kind of stuff. Um, it didn't really matter because they're people and they've made mistakes too.
Yeah, I think we forget that at all stages. It's kind of this really beautiful reminder. It's like when we're starting, we look at people who have established business and we think they're so amazing. And then we're established and we think like midsize is amazing. And then the midsize, they think like these large businesses are amazing. And then it's like it just keeps going and going and
Yeah.
growing. And in reality, it's like every time you get to that different level, you just realize every single person is just a human being. Like we're all humans, we're all making mistakes, we all function kind of the same. It's just we all just have a different set of values. We have different goals. We have different things we're doing, and they may
Yeah.
just be a little bit further than you physically, but they're still a normal human being. And instead
Yeah.
of yeah, instead of kind of like putting them on a pedestal and making them almost like these untouchable people, we forget that this is literally just a normal human being. And we see it a lot with like people in the public eye where if
Mm.
someone does something wrong, they're slammed. Like it's nobody's business. But if you look at us in our day-to-day private life and we're not that public, we do stuff like that all the time and we don't get in that much trouble. What's the difference? You just like
Yeah.
idealize them. You just forgot they were human. But like every person, is truly human. And no matter who you sit down with, I don't care what they've accomplished, you'll sit down and be like, oh, you're just like a
Yeah,
normal person.
yeah.
Yeah.
And for the most part, people uh, are kind-hearted and helpful. They like to help people as well. So we forget that. We feel, I certainly sometimes forget that. That by and large, people are good-hearted, um, just despite sometimes a rough exterior.
Totally, totally. And you might just get someone on a bad day too. Maybe they're in a hurry, like you don't even know. Maybe something like crazy happened in their business or something. Like there's this huge crash that you don't know about and they need to get to a meeting and you think they're rude and they're like, they're just late, man. Like that's it.
Yeah,
Like they just gotta go.
yeah,
So
100%.
yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, it's when we make those assumptions, like we don't even give ourselves permission to connect with people that not only are a value to us and want to help, but we are also like a value to them. We provide
Yeah,
some value. Yeah,
yeah,
it's a really
yeah.
beautiful
So true.
reminder. Yeah. All
Yeah,
right. Well, also, thank you so much for coming today. This has been such an inspiring conversation. Tell the listeners where they can find you, where they can go check out your stuff.
yeah. So the easiest thing would be uplift360.com.au, our website. You will find all the social media in the footer on the website. You can book a meeting if people wanted to there, but with me. But yeah, LinkedIn as well is on there. That's my personal LinkedIn, and I'll connect with everybody there who reaches out. So that's all cool.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much. This was a really cool conversation. And I think we got into a lot of really fun stuff. We kind of stayed on track and off track, which was our plan. Just go with the flow of
Yeah.
it. And I do really appreciate the insights you brought to everyone.
Great. Thanks so much, Carly.
Yeah, thank you too.